Welcome to Career in Ruins, where
this week I'm in Switzerland.
This guy. That would have worked brilliantly if it wasn't for the delay.
Let's sort that in post. Greece, you say? Hold my beer.
Oh, outrageous behaviour, outrageous. Not only am I back, I'm back in the office. It's shocking.
Wow. How was it all? You look like you had a great time.
I had a cracking time, pal, yeah. Really good to be away, really good archaeology, and sort of set me up for a nice year ahead. But is this the first week of 10, did you say?
Well, yeah, baby. Not 10 weeks in Switzerland, just 2 weeks away in Europe. But yeah, 10 weeks on shared parental leave. So an absolute treat. We just driven from the UK via Belgium, then to Luxembourg, then to Germany, and now arrive in Switzerland near Lucerne. And we're here till Saturday and then heading back via France.
Oh, fantastic. That sounds like a great trip.
The van's been wicked. It's got me thinking more about prehistoric parenting. We've got... The van's pretty spacious, but a lot of the space has gone to looking after this 4-month-old child, including prams and pillows and other milk warming things. And it got me thinking, people have traversed these mountains and these landscapes for millennia. There's a lovely Roman history here. There's thinking all about the Second World War movements, not necessarily linked to babies, but just people have been moving around. And then how do prehistoric people lug kids when they didn't have disposable nappies? God, it would have been a right mess. Absolute pain in the backside.
I think that's it. It just would have been a mess. Oh, I'm so jealous of your beer. That looks delightful.
It's all right. Fortunately, they accidentally delivered 2, so I'll finish this one off and get a second.
Very nice. Very nice. Now, while I was away, I got a little treat for you, pal. Little treat. So I caught up with our old friend, Robin Rönnlund, who I think it's fair to say we've been trying to get on the podcast since our first season. I think. And in that very first season, we recorded an interview with him. Fantastic conversation, sitting on a rooftop in Athens, the most
looking at the Acropolis.
Oh, it was glorious. But unfortunately, for some reason, our audio quality wasn't particularly great. What went wrong, Lawrence? Cue Lawrence having a sip of beer. We may have had a bit...
I couldn't possibly say, mate. It certainly wasn't... Well, hadn't we been out... There'd been a conference, a Swedish Institute of Athens conference that we hosted. We'd all been speaking, and then we went out and got very drunk and thought it'd be a good idea to record a podcast.
Yeah. And I listened to it back a couple of days ago. It's as bad as you remember.
Well, but we recorded that on the same day as we recorded our first ever podcast with Jenny. So episode 1, season 1, A Career in Ruins, is Jenny, who was a director of Swedish Institute of Athens. That was the same day, but that was before we'd started drinking alcohol.
Yeah. And it's unbelievable. Robin holds himself together beautifully, but you and me, we sound
Robin
dreadful.
Always holds himself together beautifully compared to you and me. This doesn't have to be linked to a podcast, my friend.
And that was attempt 1. Now, mindful that attempt 1 was pretty appalling, I decided to do another podcast with him about a week later, and I sat him and our other colleague, commercial archaeologist in Sweden, Johan Klunger, sat them both down and had a fantastic conversation on a balcony, not too dissimilar to where you are now, overlooking a bit of the Aegean. It was very nice. And it's probably one of the best podcast conversations I've ever had. However, one of the team had a really rustly coat and we couldn't hear a thing.
Oh.
So Robin holds the record of being the person to be interviewed 3 times, and finally we're going to get one out. So excellent. I thought I'd share it with you now, pal.
Perfect. Well, I'm looking forward to this. Well, he's a fantastic human being, so I'm looking forward to... Oh, a little kingfisher's just flown past. Sorry. Just a distracted ADHD brain. He's a brilliant human being. I'm looking forward to hearing what he shares with you.
Yeah, and I'm going to leave him to introduce himself in the video. Here we go. Robin, welcome to Career in Ruins for the third time, I think.
Yeah.
So, first time, Lawrence and I were slurring our words, let's say. We had quite a bit of rooftop wine. Second time, you had a very rustly coat. Mm-hmm. So this is over the span of about 4 or 5 years, isn't it? But we're finally going to get you on Career in Ruins. Oof. On location in Greece.
On location, yeah.
So, Robin, first of all, introduce yourself. Tell me who you are.
I am Robin Rönnlund. I am a Venezuelan researcher at the Department of Historical Studies at Gothenburg University, Sweden, but also at the Swedish Institute at Athens. I'm a classical archaeologist specialized in the study of urbanism in ancient Greece. So that's been my vocation, I think, for some 10 years now. And I am, together with you, conducting this amazing, in my view, excavation at Thessaly and Vlochos in the region of Kalvitsa in Thessaly, central Greece.
Now, you mentioned our work, and I want to talk about that a little bit before we get on to the normal questions, because Lawrence and I did a podcast earlier this week, and he was asking me, what are you doing out there? What's going on? And I suddenly panicked and thought, I don't know what I'm allowed to say. I don't know what I'm not allowed to say. So I thought I'd ask you, so what are we doing here this year? What can we say about what we're up to?
To explain that in a bit of context, we shouldn't be presenting what we do prior to reporting it to the Greek government. So that's our obligation. But we can say that we are continuing our work, the excavations in the classical Hellenistic city at Vlochos. So we are currently investigating, I would say, 3 different buildings, 2 domestic, we think, and 1 public, with a team of 14 people. It's always a bit terrifying. We are... Last day tomorrow of excavation work. Yeah, it's terrifying. With really amazing results, I would say. We have evidence for habitation, for public life, and for rather, high-end buildings, I would say, which we hope to publish next year. So it's going to be, and also, there's going to be some time team episodes coming out soon with some goodies from previous years. Yeah.
There's a lot to look forward to in terms of what we can share with world. And certainly when the report comes out, maybe we'll get you back on and chat in a bit more detail. But I'm slightly more interested in thinking of the challenges of a field season like this, because we often hear about archaeologists going off into the field on these wonderful expeditions and doing loads of interesting work. But you mentioned we've got a team of 14 people. How do you go about getting a team together for a small, 3-week field season? What are the logistical challenges of that?
Yeah, I think that is really the challenge with archaeology. Digging is one thing. That is what we do. But the real challenge is getting people together, getting them here. Greece, this is the Greek countryside. We have to get people from all over Europe on planes and get them safely on location, finding places to stay. That is always a puzzle. But I think we manage because we're lucky to have this wonderful connection with the local society here, people wanting to help out, people helping us finding empty houses that are available for rent and such things. Without their help, we wouldn't be able to do this. It is really a question of slowly but steadily building a strong and good connection with villagers and townspeople, and thus enabling working here. I don't think we would have been where we are right now without the goodwill of the people around us.
So the people here are genuinely interested in what we do?
Yes, they're very, very much so. I think if there is a success story within the project, I would say that it is the great interest, the curiosity that what we're doing is really bringing forward in every visitor coming to site, just being surprised at seeing all these things coming out of the ground. When we came there the first time, we saw this vast field of thistles. There's absolutely nothing to see. And I can imagine if you're a local farmer or a villager, and you would pass this field every day on your way to your pastures, your fields, it's hard to imagine that something would be there, and it must be truly, thought-provoking seeing these things coming out of the ground.
I remember an instance of meeting a farmer in his own field when we were out doing a geophysical survey, and him being so curious about what we were up to, this sort of mysterious English folks wandering around the field with this strange bit of equipment, and then showing him a map, and the look on his face of, oh my God, what have we got here, was phenomenal. And that feeling's quite special, isn't it?
It is. But I mean, we are working, this is a collaboration between so many research departments and institutions. It's the effort of Antiquities in Katowice, which is the local archaeological authority, the Swedish Archaeological Institute in Athens, my University of Gothenburg, Bournemouth University, and in the way that the synergy that we create by working with Greek archaeologists, international participants, I think also adds a layer of interest to what we're doing. We're not just from one place. We're a bunch of people coming from all around, from local authority to, we have an American member. It must be really exotic in this environment as well.
He looks quite exotic as well. Big moustache. Oh, fantastic. Now, this wouldn't be Career in Ruins without discussing your career in ruins, and we could talk about this project all day long. And I think when the final book's out, we should get back together and discuss all of the highs and lows of the project and all of the results in their glorious detail. But today, I'm quite keen to know. I mean, I've known you now for 10 years, I think, first time we met. I don't know bits about you, but I'd love to know how you go from being a young boy wandering the lands of Sweden to being a classical archaeologist working here in Greece. What's your story, Robin?
I mean, when I was 6 years old, I was gifted by my parents. I don't know why they did this, but they came home one day with this VHS tape, which to our young viewers is a piece of incredibly ancient technology that enables you to watch video on a screen. This VHS had the underwater excavations by Jacques Cousteau, the famous French underwater explorer, making these amazing discoveries underwater at the Antiquity wreck here in Greece. And I was so fascinated by this. I was watching this VHS tape all over and over again. I decided I wanted to become an archaeologist. Let's say I got off track for a few years, but then I came back into business. I realized I want to become an archaeologist in my early 20s. And I thought I would be working in Sweden. But I missed the deadline for applying to the Nordic archaeology bachelor's program. So I thought, meanwhile, I can do classical archaeology. And I got hooked. Since I think the reason why I ended up in Greece is I took a course at the Swedish Institute in the archaeology of Greece. And I was shown by one of the lecturers a field behind a petrol station in the Peloponnese. It's just covered in pottery everywhere, just pottery in this field. And it was hard for me to comprehend how this would work. How could it be so much everywhere? And then my brain kind of kicked in, realizing like that there is a place for me here. There's something left to be done. And ever since, I kind of been looking for these places where there are empty, like white spots on the map. I think that is partially why I became interested in Thessaly as well, the region we're in at the moment, because it's traditionally in research been regarded as a little bit of a backwater, because it's in the middle of inland Greece. But it's not a backwater. It's an extremely rich archaeological region with a very welcoming and a welcoming local archaeological authority that is interested in collaboration. It kind of sucked me here, and now we've been doing this for 10 years. It's incredible, but it's a string of haphazard kind of unplanned events that eventually led to me being here, and I've enjoyed the ride.
I love that you got into classical archaeology because you missed a deadline, and there's a message for our viewers there that if you miss a deadline, don't worry, you can still find your calling. So that's incredible. And I think you mentioned as well that something that drew you to working in Greece was that there was still work to be done. And it sort of mirrors a bit of my own career there. And I rarely talk about my own career on the podcast because it's about you guys, the guests. But my second fieldwork experience in archaeology, my first ever international experience, and actually my first ever time abroad, was doing archaeology in Greece. And at the time, it was all I wanted to do. And I remember chatting to various academics at the university I was studying in, and a lot of them kind of had this perception that Greece has been done. There's been so much archaeology there over the years. There's no new questions. There's nothing new to be found. And it took me, that was 2005, and we started in 2015, 16? Yeah. So it took me 10 years to get back to Greece and realise that, holy heck, there's a lot of questions here that need answering. And it was Thessaly that really gave me that inspiration in a similar way it did to you much earlier in your career. Yeah. But it's interesting, isn't it, how many questions are still unanswered here? Yeah.
And I think what's really attractive with Greece, at least for me, is that there's a very long history of habitation, but also with literary texts. And there's not only the material evidence that we can link what we find in the ground with historical events. It allows us to understand the human condition, the long-term human history, in a way that maybe it would be more difficult, let's say, in a Swedish environment. But here we can pinpoint key questions like my main interest is ancient urbanism. How does urbanism develop? What are the origins of urbanism? How does it develop? Why does it end? Are there trends, long-term trends? And Greece allows us to ask these questions and maybe even answer them. And I think this is really why both you and me are here.
So if you could go back and talk to your younger self who was watching the Jacques Cousteau VHS, obviously at the time you were inspired by underwater archaeology, and yet you've ended up in the most inland place in Greece imaginable. What would you say to your younger self about that?
Yeah, at the time, my biggest concern at the time was, and it still is, that I can't dive without pinching my nose. And that's not ideal if you're an underwater archaeologist. I would say, this is possible. This is a great thing. And there are many kids that dream of being archaeologists. And it's possible. You can do it. It's absolutely doable. And I would probably say that you can do this. And one day you will do it. It seemed very far off.
Yeah.
If you grew up in a Stockholm suburb, it's as far away as it gets from diving in the Mediterranean. But I think this is the point. Many people dream about this and they end up not doing it because they're told, like I was, that you can't make a living out of it. There's very few jobs. Get yourself a well-paid job and you can do this during your holidays or whatever. But it is doable, and there is a space for you, and there will be a space for your research as well. I think that would have been comforting for the 6-year-old. Also, that it is as fun as you think it is.
It is as fun as you think it is. It's a lot of fun. So then, as you know, on the podcast, we have a few set questions. First one is always about your career. The first one is there anything or an event or a dig or an aspect of your career that you're particularly proud of?
Well, I think the place we're working at, Vlochos, we had the idea from the onset that this might be telling the story of urban life in antiquity, that we thought this has the potential of doing that. And I think we're just about to show this, that it actually was, and that we had some original hypotheses that, with some modifications, of course, will turn out to be true. And that kind of shows the strength in scientific methodology. And I'm very pleased and proud about that. But I also am very pleased and proud about that you can put together a team of relatively young people, and we were at the time.
Yeah, less so now.
Less so now, that have never really done something like this, and it is still possible to do. That you don't have to be a 50-year-old experienced professor to do this. You can do it when you're, relatively young, and you can succeed if you take the task seriously.
Very good, very good. How about envy? Other than maybe Jacques Cousteau and the diving, we'll put that to one side. Is there any project or bit of field work or bit of archaeology that you'd say I'm envious of?
Oh, wow. That is a hard one. I think I envy projects that get lots of funding. Yeah, I mean, when you realize there are limits to what you can do, and those limits are often about resources. But people who are good at getting funding for the things they want to do, not just to do things, but they have clear ideas of, I want to do this, and I got the funds and I'm able to do this. I don't think I should get into specific example of this, but I envy people who are good at knowing what they want to do and acquiring the funds to do what they want to do. I think that is my main envy.
That's a very pertinent envy, because one of the themes that Lawrence and I discussed in a recent podcast is funding, and we're planning on actually doing a future podcast on the challenges of funding in various sectors of the archaeology world. He's going through a process at the moment of trying to secure funding for heritage within forestry environments, and we were just chatting about the challenges of funding, and it's fair to say that on this project, with a couple of minor exceptions, you've brought the funding. What's the experience and the challenges you found funding a project like this?
I think the good thing about being a Swedish archaeologist is that there's a strong tradition in Sweden of these mid-range research foundations that provide you with funds to do hands-on fieldwork. And we've been very happy to have a good relation with these funding bodies. And I think we had a rather stable income, let's say, a stable flow of funds to do what we want to do, being also aware of the limits of these funds, that we can't do enormous works, but we can do pretty good works with the funds that we're getting. But I know that this is not always the case in other places. So I think my experience is, well, rather it's worth trying. It's always worth trying. You can get a yes.
Yeah.
And just try, apply to everything that moves is kind of the strategy.
Yeah.
And it will pay off. I mean, some years, as you say, some years we end up with too little, and then you have to do something smaller. But often, if you dare to go for it, you will be surprised. If you're doing good work, the research foundations will be interested in helping you, because that's their thing. They are there to pay out funds for research, not for something else.
I think that's a really important point about actually asking the question, because I can't remember the exact phrasing, but you lose 100% of the grants you don't apply for.
Yeah,
but you might just get the ones you do.
Yeah,
I think there's a really important message there about having a go, trying. Obviously, there are some exceptions where you may only be able to apply once if you get rejected, and you have to be a bit more strategic. But ultimately, you lose nothing in applying other than a bit of time.
And I mean, the sad and fun part is that success will generate success.
Yeah.
If you start getting funds in, other research bodies will be interested in supporting you. So it's worth getting into the thing, and in the end, you will start to think application wise, like this project is good because it's easily explainable to a research funding body, and that can be a good thing. It could also be a bad thing. You could start to get too narrow and thinking in lines of I'm going to apply for things that I can get money for instead of applying for things that need to be done.
Interesting. Now, this last question, I've asked you it twice before.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to dig out the archive recordings and see how your answers changed over the years, because I suspect it may have done, but I'll wait and see. As you know, Lawrence and I have developed a time machine, and we give all of our guests on the podcast a return ticket to anywhere in the past. And the rules are quite flexible. We've had people sort of concerned about their safety. Obviously, you'll be very safe wherever you go. If you had a return ticket to somewhere in the past, where would you go and why?
Yeah, so I've changed my mind here. That is, yeah, and it's partially, due to something we did a few years back. So in Venice, in Italy, there is this massive marble lion that the Venetians took as war booty from Greece after a war in the 17th century with the Ottoman Turks. On this lion, there is a runic inscription of the 11th century CE, carved by Swedish mercenaries in the employ of the Byzantine emperor. This lion originally stood in the harbor of Athens, Piraeus. The harbor was known as the Porta Leone, the lion port, because of this lion. And these Swedish mercenaries carved this very typical runic decorative inscription on this lion. And I would like to see this happening and the reaction of the locals when these barbarians turn up and they turn their beautiful lion into a rune stone, which would be something that they would have no idea what it is, but would make so much sense for the Vikings. Like, this is what we got at home. We're going to put up a memorial. This is what a memorial looks like. We're going to make it into a memorial. And I would like to see the reaction of this vandalism. I think that would be my choice at the moment.
And it has changed. That's good. Yeah. And that lion's an interesting story, isn't it? It's the subject of a children's book recently. Is that right? Yeah. So if our listeners and viewers now want to learn more, they may have to learn Swedish for now, but there is a children's book about this fascinating story of this lion all the way from Athens to Venice through the hand of a Swedish crew of, what did you call them?
Varangians. It's a beautiful story. To me, that thing, it's the kind of embodiment of world archaeology, because it's an ancient marble lion from the age of classical Athens that is currently in Venice. It's carved by Viking mercenaries. It's world archaeology.
It's got a story, and if you can find that book and check it out. And all of our adventures, or some of our adventures in Greece, are available via Time Team, obviously. So viewers and listeners can check that out at their leisure, and there'll be a new episode coming soon. Fingers crossed, when the final bits of the edit are in place. And of course, if folks want to find our stuff, they can go and look to our publications, which are all available open access.
They are.
Where do they go to find those?
Type in opuscula. Maybe you can put in, because it's a hard thing to pronounce. Opuscula is the journal of the Swedish Institute at Athens and Rome. So it's all available open access.
And there's a fair old number of our publications in there with lots of great pictures and stories to be told. Thank you, Robin. Thank you for taking the time to do a third Career in Ruins interview. Hopefully we've got no rustling, and everything else is good for this one. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there you go, mate.
Oh, what an absolute champ. Sorry, excuse my horn in the background. Authentic. There's a lovely boat over there somewhere. There you go. Keep it down, mate. Podcast. What an absolute champ. Like, some lovely sort of themes in there and threads, and certainly ones that we haven't necessarily heard on the podcast before. So that was really, really nice. I quite like. I'm assuming you didn't do this on purpose, but the funding thread that ran through it.
It came up completely organically, and when Robin started talking about funding, I thought, hang on, we can jump on this one. This is this is part of the same conversation.
Yeah, I mean, to not do disservice to the rest of the team, that I know you're a huge, like, there's a number of you on the directorship of that project, but I want to say this, and tell me if I'm wrong, he's single-handedly driven that project to such huge successes, and to this, like, obviously great support and great collaboration with all the project leads, but his drive to get the funding and to know who to go to and to have the vision and to even know to talk to the right people where his strengths are and where his weaknesses are to make sure he can get that funding, like bringing in a legend like Associate Professor Derek Pittman to do the geophysics. But yeah, it's inspirational. It's a really nice, it's a fantastic example of an early career archaeologist absolutely making it happen. And yeah, he's an inspiration in terms of that sort of thing.
Massively. And yeah, it's fair to say it's his drive. A significant amount of the funding comes from him in terms of getting grants and also driving the publication strategy and getting things out there has kept the project going. It's been fantastic.
The publication's a good point because yeah, I'm pretty sure we owe him some text at the moment.
I mean, that is exactly it. Next year we're taking some time out to do some writing, so we won't be in the field as much next year. So we've got to basically produce a book about our project, and then we can think about applying for a new project for more years. And you say we're early career researchers. We certainly were when we started, but the next phase of the project will probably take me up to my 50th birthday.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think time waits for no one, Pittman. I think that's the moral of that story. But certainly at the start of that project 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years.
Coming on 10 years. Yeah. Totally early careers. Brilliant example of yeah. If you know your stuff, if you work hard, if you ask the right questions and you poke the right doors and funding opportunities, then yeah, you will reap the rewards. And he's absolutely. And what's really frustrating about Robin, not only is he a brilliant academic and got a great project, but he's a lovely human being, a talented musician, and yeah, devilishly handsome and very tall. Infuriating. Some people get all of that.
He's got it all. He's got it all, and he's got all of us as friends. What could be better? It was a lovely chat, and I've heard the story a few times now, but it was so nice to hear about his inspiration from Jacques Cousteau and the diving.
Jacques Cousteau.
Voilà
mon passeport.
One day I'm going to dress him up in the red hat and the blue coveralls.
I think we should be because I think there's a Jacques Cousteau Society. We should sign him up to it as a thank you for being on the podcast. Yeah, and I think you get a beret. Stu Eve, who was on the podcast previously, he's definitely a member of the Jacques Cousteau Society. He was telling me about it. So I think you get a beret. So let's don't tell him if he's not going to listen to this podcast.
Won't listen.
So yeah.
So we'll look into that. Perfect.
Right, mate. Top work on bagging another podcast. As ever, we are looking forward to seeing some emails in the inbox from you guys asking us questions, correcting us on things we got wrong, highlighting connections to content in the podcast and other things like that. But in the meantime, we will catch up with you all very, very soon.
See you soon.